Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are stepping into some seriously hallowed and honestly pretty heated territory. We are going back to Hogwarts.
We are in me.
But before you get too cozy with your butterbeer nostalgia, I need to throw a number at you that it honestly made me do a double take when I first saw it in our source material.
It is a surprising statistic, to say the least.
Yeah.
It really sets the stage for how polarizing this whole topic has become over the years.
Okay, so we're looking at a source today that breaks down the age-old debate, Severus Snape versus James Potter, the ultimate question of who was morally worse.
A question that can end friendships.
No kidding. And the source material starts by citing a poll where 41% of fans voted that James Potter was more in the wrong than Severus Snape. 41%.
That's nearly half the room, if you think of it. It just suggests a massive cultural shift in how we interpret these characters.
It has to be.
We sort of moved away from just the text and into a space where, frankly, the film portrayals have come to dominate the conversation.
Exactly. And the source we're unpacking today, well, they are having absolutely none of it. They are coming in hot with the argument that if you are part of that 41%, you might be looking at the story through some seriously rose-colored glasses.
Or, as they put it, rather blunt.
You might be a little delusional.
It is a strong word, delusional. But the argument they build is fascinating. It really forces us to strip away the charisma of the actors in the film, specifically the incredible Alan Rickman, and look strictly at the text.
Just the text, the timeline of events.
Right. And the premise here is simple, but it's really provocative. Equating a high school bully, which James undeniably was, with a man who voluntarily joined a murderous cult, which Snape did, is a false equivalence.
A complete false equivalence.
Yeah.
And that's the mission for this deep dive. We are going to analyze the arguments presented in this breakdown. Severus Snape is way worse than James Potter.
And we are just rehashing the books for fun.
Although that is always a bonus.
Always. But we're looking at specific evidence regarding character growth, moral choices, and this really tricky distinction between what constitutes love versus what is actually obsession.
And that distinction is where the entire debate really hinges, doesn't it?
It really is. We often romanticize obsession in fiction. We mistake it for this profound love because of the sheer intensity. But when you actually look at the actions, the collateral damage, and the motivation, the picture changes completely.
So let's get into it. I want to start where it all begins for them. The high school dynamic.
Of course.
Because this is usually the main defense for Snape, right? The James was a bully defense. And our source, they admit it right out of the gate.
Yes.
James Potter was a bully.
There's no sugarcoating that. The source acknowledges fully that James tormented Snape. He was arrogant, he was entitled, and often he was just plain cruel.
But, and this is a huge but.
Here's the nuance that often gets lost in the poor Snape narrative. Snape wasn't just some passive victim hiding in the library.
No, he was dishing it out too.
Yeah, precisely. The source points out that Snape actively participated in this rivalry. He went after James just as often. It was not a one-way street of aggression.
Okay, so why was James so popular and Snape was such an outcast? The source argues it wasn't just because James was like a rich jock with cool hair.
No, not at all. It was about how Snape chose to spend his free time. It's about his hobbies, his interests.
Yeah, this part really stood out to me. While James is off playing Quidditch or, planning pranks, Snape is practicing the dark art.
And not just reading about them in a book. He's actively practicing them. And more importantly, he's hanging out with future Death Eaters, his whole social circle.
And we have to pause on that term, Death Eaters.
Oh.
In the context of this world, you have to understand, we are not talking about the goth kids smoking behind the gym.
Not even close. We're talking about a group that is actively preparing to join a supremacist regime. These were students who openly supported the subjugation and, well, the murder of Muggles and Muggleborns.
And the source brings up a really damning confrontation. The one involving Lily Evans. She calls him out on it directly.
She does. It's a key moment.
She says, "You and your precious little Death Eater friend, you don't even deny that's what you're all aiming to be."
That line carries so much weight. You don't even deny it. I mean, just think about the implications of that for a second.
It's huge.
Lily, his best friend, the person he supposedly loves more than anyone, is telling him, "I see who you're becoming," and it is frightening.
And what does he do? He doesn't say, "No, Lily, you've got it all wrong. It's not like that."
He essentially shrugs it off. He gets defense because he can't deny it. It's true. He's proud of it.
Because he can't wait to join Voldemort. That's the whole thing. And this is why the source argues you simply cannot equate being, say, stuffed in a locker, which is terrible, don't get me wrong, with preparing to join a murderous hate group.
Exactly. One is high school cruelty. The other is ideological radicalization. It's a completely different moral universe.
And the source makes a really sharp point here. They say if you were bullied in school, it is completely natural to feel Snape.
Of course.
But unless you responded to that bullying by deciding to join a terrorist organization, you and Snape are not the same.
Oof, that is a reality check.
Yeah.
It really reframes the whole sympathy angle, doesn't it?
It's meant to. The source argues that Snape's lack of popularity wasn't just because James was mean to him. It was because people saw Snape as a bad person because of the company he kept and the kind of magic he practiced.
Even Lily, the one person whose opinion mattered more to him than anyone else's in the world. She saw this darkness in it, and he didn't try to change it for her.
Which brings us directly to the infamous Mudblood incident. This is like the climax of their school rivalry.
It's James's lowest moment, for sure. He's got Snape hanging upside down. It's public humiliation.
But the key here is Snape's reaction. Lily steps in, she tries to help him, and how does he respond? He lashes out.
He calls her a mudblood. And for anyone who needs a refresher, that is the wizarding equivalent of a severe racial slur. It's a word rooted in the idea of genocide.
And the source makes a very big deal about this not being an accident. This wasn't just a slip of the tongue because he was angry and embarrassed.
No, a flip of the tongue implies a mistake, something you don't really mean. The source argues this revealed his true colors. It showed a deep-seated prejudice that was there long, long before he ever came to Hogwarts.
Right. They reference that moment when they were children, before they even got their letter. Lily asks him if her parentage matters, if being Muggle-born makes a difference.
Snape hesitates.
The book describes his black eyes moving over her face. Eager. He says no, but it's so clear he's only saying
He doesn't believe it. He's always believed in that pure blood hierarchy. So when he screams that slur at her in 5th year, he's finally showing her exactly who he is and what he...
And he doubles down. He says to the other students, I don't need help from filthy little mudbloods like her. He's ashamed to be served by her.
It's pride mixed with this deep, ugly bigotry. And that is why the source, and more importantly, Lily herself, draws a final line in the sand. It wasn't just him having a bad day. It was a confirmation of his entire worldview.
This transitions perfectly into the next major point the source makes, the myth of the stolen girl.
Oh, yes.
Because how many times have we heard that narrative that James stole Lily?
It is a very, very common trope in the fandom, but the source just deconstructs this mercilessly. James didn't steal anyone.
Lily wasn't a possession to be stolen.
Exactly. Lily had agency, she made a choice, she wrote Snape off, and she explicitly tells him it's because of his actions.
It's about the dark magic, the friends he was hanging out with, and obviously the racial slur was the final nail in the coffin. It was not because James swooped in and dazzled her.
In fact, you have to remember, at the time the friendship ended, Lily despised James too. She calls him an arrogant toe rag. She didn't leave Snape for James. She left Snape because Snape was becoming a person she could no longer respect or even recognize.
Okay, so there's this fan theory the source brings up, the smirk detail. Apparently, some people believe Lily smiled or smirked when Snape was hanging upside down, implying she secretly enjoyed it.
Right, and the source just shuts that down quite effectively. The argument is that Lily was already on the verge of ending the friendship. She was exhausted by his constant apologies that meant nothing.
She'd heard it all before.
Exactly, so if her mouth twitched, it wasn't pleasure. It was probably the grim irony of the situation, or just nerves. She was there to do the right thing, to stop a bully, not because she was flirting with James or enjoying Snape's humiliation.
And this brings us to the character arcs, because this is where their paths just completely diverge. You have James, who starts as a bully.
And Snape, who starts as this victim/dark arts enthusiast. But by 7th year, things look very, very different.
James's arc is one of maturation, and the source highlights a key piece of evidence that I think is often overlooked. Dumbledore made James head,
And James wasn't even a prefect.
which is almost unheard of.
It is. Think about it. Dumbledore is an educator. He sees everything that goes on in that castle. He would not give the highest student honor, the most responsibility, to an unrepentant bully.
Never.
The fact that James got that bad means that Dumbledore, an objective authority, saw a fundamental shift in his character.
So it's not just Lupin and Sirius, his biased best friend, saying, oh yeah, James totally changed. It's the highest authority figure in the entire school validating that.
Precisely. James deflated his head a bit, as Lily put it. He stopped casting hexes on people for fun. He grew up.
Meanwhile, what was Snape?
Snape went down the opposite path. While James was learning to be a leader, Snape was entrenching himself further and further into dark ideology. He didn't grow out of his toxicity. He professionalized it.
Which brings us to adulthood, Section 3, the adult, or as I like to call, Order of the Phoenix versus the Wizard.
It's a very stark contrast. There's really no gray area here.
On one side, you have James Potter. He leaves school, he marries Lily, and he immediately joins the Order of...
He dedicates his adult life to fighting Voldemort. He's risking his life, his family's safety, everything he has to protect the world.
And that world includes Snape, ironically enough.
Yes, it does. And on the other side, you have Snape,
who joins the Death Eaters. He swears his allegiance to a murderous dictator. He gets the dark mark tattooed on his arm.
And the source pushes back really, really hard against the victim narrative here. They argue that you cannot blame high school bullying for this choice. A high school bully cannot force you to join a hate.
No, that is the crucial moral line.
You can be scarred by bullying. You can be angry. You can be resentful. But the jump from I hate James Potter to I will help torture and kill muggles, that is a leap that Snape took all on his own. That moral failure lies entirely with him.
And let's talk about what he actually did as a member of that, because this leads directly to the single greatest tragedy of the series.
He is the catalyst.
Snape is the reason the Potters are dead. Full stop.
He overheard the prophecy. He ran to Voldemort with the information.
And the source emphasizes something really chilling. When he relayed that information, Snape was perfectly fine with Voldemort going to kill a baby.
That is the part that is so hard to swallow. He knew what it meant. He knew Voldemort would hunt down a child and murder them. And as the source puts it, he didn't bat an eye.
He was completely content with the murder of a family, a husband, and a baby boy until he realized it was her.
Until he realized it was Lily. And this meeting with Dumbledore, wow, it is frankly one of the most revealing and horrifying moments in the entire series.
Snape goes to Dumbledore, begging him to save Lily, just Lily.
And Dumbledore's reaction here is everything. He is disgusted. He asks Snape, "You do not care then about the deaths of her husband and child? They can die as long as you have what you want."
And Snape doesn't deny it. He doesn't say, no, of course not. He just says, hide them all then. Like it's an afterthought.
It's a concession. And that's when Dumbledore says the line,
You disgust
me. Just think about what it takes for Albus Dumbledore, a man who believes in second chances more than almost anyone, to look at you and say that.
It's because Snape wasn't asking for mercy out of any sense of morality. He was asking for a transaction. He was willing to trade the lives of a husband and an infant son just to keep the object of his obsession alive for himself.
You treated them as acceptable collateral damage.
Exactly. And this is where the source completely reframes Snape's love. They argue it isn't love at all. It's a creepy, empathetic obsession.
They point out the timeline, which I honestly hadn't thought about in these exact terms before. Snape hadn't spoken to Lily since he was 16 years old. He was 38 when...
That is 22 years.
22 years.
He held a grudge and an obsession over a high school crush who never loved him back, who married his rival and had a child with him for 22 years.
It creates this picture of a man who is just completely emotionally stunted. He's frozen in that hallway in fifth year. He never moved on, never grew, never found his own life. He just stewed in his own resentment.
And speaking of resentment, let's talk about Snape because for me, this is where the whole James was a bully argument really truly falls apart.
It's a critical distinction to make.
Kid when he bullied a teenager. Snape was a grown man in a position of immense power over...
And this is where the source directly compares their adult behavior. James grew up and died fighting for others. Snape spent his adult years bullying innocent children.
The Neville Longbottom example is, it's just heartbreaking.
It is indefensible. There is no other word for it. You have Neville Longbottom, a boy whose parents were tortured into insanity by Snape's own Death Eater associates.
A boy who is shy, who is struggling with magic, who is terrified of everything.
And what does Snape do? He torments him so relentlessly that Neville's boggart, the physical manifestation of his greatest fear in the entire world, Professor Snape.
Not Bellatrix Lestrange, the woman who tortured his parents.
Not Voldemort himself.
His chemist.
The source states, there is no excuse for a teacher to be a child's greatest fear. That is an abuse of power, plain and simple. There's no way around it.
And he tries to kill Neville's toad for no reason.
He threatens to poison the toad, Trevor, just to prove Neville's potion is wrong. If Hermione hadn't stepped in and helped Neville, that pet would be dead. It's just cruelty for the sake of cruelty.
And then, of course, there's Harry. Snape tormented Harry from the moment he walked into Hogwarts, simply because he looked like his father.
The irony is just, it's palpable. He held a 20-year grudge against a man, Jane, who he effectively helped murder.
A good man, or even just a complex man with a functioning conscience, would feel overwhelming guilt looking at Harry. He would think, I helped orphan this boy.
But Snape doesn't feel guilt, he feels hate.
He sees the glasses and the messy hair, and all he sees is the bully from 2 decades ago. He doesn't see the eyes of the woman he supports.
Or rather, he does see her eyes, but he completely ignores what she would have wanted. Do you really think Lily Evans would have wanted her son to be treated like garbage for 7 years?
Absolutely not. It's an insult to her memory.
So, again, the question becomes, does he love Lily, or does he love the idea of possessing her? Because if you truly love someone, You care about what they care about. You protect what they died to protect. You don't abuse their child out of spite.
That's a mic drop moment right there. But okay, we have to address the hero narrative because people will scream, but he protected Harry. He saved him in the first book from Quirrell.
The source addresses this head-on. Yes, Snape protected Harry, but the crucial question is why?
The debt theory.
Exact. Dumbledore suggests that Snape protected Harry because he felt he owed James a debt. You have to remember, way back in school, James saved Snup's life when Sirius played that terrible prank with the Whomping Willow.
Right, he stopped him from getting mauled by a werewolf.
So the source argues that Snape's actions weren't about protecting Harry for Harry's sake. He wanted to quit the debt. He wanted to square the ledger.
So he could go back to hating James's memories.
It's not an act of altruism, it's transaction clearing. It's bookkeeping. The source calls this motivation immature, selfish, psychopathic.
What?
Because it's not about keeping the boy safe because the boy matters. It's about clearing his own conscience so he can return to his preferred state of bitter hate.
It really, it strips every last shred of nobility out of it, doesn't it?
It does. Now, to be fair, the source does admit Snape is brave. We absolutely cannot take that away from him.
No, being a double agent is incredibly dangerous.
He was a spy. He looked Voldemort in the eye and lied to him for years. That takes immense courage.
Yeah, there's always a but.
But the caveat is the motivation. The source argues that his bravery is effectively wiped away because it was born entirely of obsession. He brought nothing but harm to the world until the one woman he wanted was targeted. His turn to the good side wasn't a moral awakening.
It was a selfish panic.
Precisely.
They use this if scenario that's really interesting. James once said, I don't like him because he exists, which is a terrible thing to say, obviously, but the source flips it. If Snape hadn't existed,
the Potters wouldn't have died.
The prophecy wouldn't have been relayed to Voldemort. Voldemort might never have known where to look. Harry wouldn't be an orphan.
It is a devastatingly simple argument. In the end, Snape is the architect of his own misery and the misery of everyone around him.
And James, for all his teenage faults, he matured into a man who added value to the world. He fought evil.
While Snape fueled it and only switched sides for deeply personal selfish reasons.
So we're nearing the end of this deep dive, and we have to look at the final verdict from our source. They really don't pull any punches.
No, they do not. The summary is brutally clear. James Potter was a hero who grew out of his bullying phase and died protecting his family and the world. Severus Snape was a lifelong bully and an evil person whose few good deeds were incidental to his obsession.
And they circle right back to that label from the beginning, delusional. The source's stance is that if you look at all of these facts, the aspiring hate group member, the racial slur, the indifference to a baby's death, the years of abusing students, and you still think Snape is the better or more sympathetic man, then you are ignoring reality.
It's a direct challenge to the audience, really. It asks you to separate the art from the character. We all love the complexity of the tragic anti-hero in fiction. We love the reveal and the pensive, the line always. It's beautiful cinema.
It's iconic.
But morally, in the cold, hard light of day. The source says it is the story of a man who couldn't let go of a high school grudge, even when the fate of the entire world hung in the balance.
It really makes you rethink that always line. It goes from being this, epic romantic statement to, well, something kind of scary.
It becomes a testament to stagnation, a refusal to ever move forward, a monument to his obsession.
So here's the final thought I want to, and it builds on everything we've just discussed. Imagine the movies. Imagine you never saw Alan Rickman, incredible, nuanced, charismatic. You only have the police of their act.
Just the facts on paper.
Right. Is redemption actually possible for someone who only changes sides person they wanted was targeted, while they remain totally indifferent to the deaths of countless others, including that person?
Does doing the right thing for the absolute wrong reason make you a...
Or does it just make you a useful weapon in someone else's war?
That is the ultimate question, is can you be a good person if your goodness is entirely conditional on your own self?
That's it for this deep dive into the Snape versus Potter debate.